Welcome to the all-new That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. New episodes air each weekday morning at 9 a.m. now on thatbusinessnetwork.com and available on iTunes as a podcast. Please subscribe to us on iTunes and please leave a review. That helps the show grow. It helps the show get found in the search engines and get the exposure for more to more listeners for our guests. So help the show grow on iTunes, which is a big mission of the program now. So please leave a subscribe and leave a review on iTunes for That Business Show 2.0 and tune in to new episodes weekday mornings at thatbusinessnetwork.com. Today, my guest is Joryn Jenkins. She is an attorney and founder of Open Palm Collaborative Law, and you can learn more at openpalmlaw.com. A little bit of a tongue twister for me, openpalmlaw.com. So Joryn, welcome to the program today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
First off, you've been in the legal business for some time now, and you've branched off into this division of collaborative law for divorce. So first off, explain this area, and is it possible to have a collaborative divorce?
Well, yeah. I think a lot of lawyers and non-lawyers don't realize how many people get divorced without even consulting a lawyer. They may be upset with each other, but sometimes it's just a question of, I'm done. This isn't working out. But we still have kids and we still respect each other. And so they sit down and they work things out at the kitchen table. Lawyers call that the kitchen table divorce, in fact. But they work it out. They get some forms, they fill it out, and they take care of it themselves. So a lot of divorces get done that way. The judges downtown in Hillsborough County say that 60% of their divorcing people are not represented by lawyers.
Wow, I didn't even realize that was such a high statistic. I assumed everybody got an attorney when it came time to get divorced. Fortunately, myself, I'm still looking for the one. I'm still single at 39, so I'm not experienced, that side of life just yet. Who knows if I ever will.
That'll change, Jamie. You'll get snapped up soon, I'm sure.
Well, thank you for the vote of confidence.
The fact is, though, that many people can get divorced collaboratively, and I use the term collaboratively exactly the way we all use it, cooperatively. And there are other versions of a cooperative divorce. Sometimes one of the two people will get a lawyer to transcribe the agreement because they don't know exactly how to write it up. Sometimes that lawyer will talk to the other spouse. The lawyer who is hired by spouse A will talk to spouse B to make sure that he got their agreement right or to iron out any details. And so that's another version where the lawyer is sort of negotiating between the two of them, even though he represents one of them. There are two people who can't quite work it out themselves. They go to a mediator. The mediator can be a mental health professional. It can be a marriage counselor who's trained in mediation. It can be a financial person who's trained in mediation. And of course, probably the majority of mediators are lawyers. So we deal with all those issues in divorce. Obviously, most people realize there are the legal issues and there are also the financial issues, but there are also emotional issues sometimes. And so sometimes the mental health mediator is the best person to mediate between those two people. You can go to a mediator with your lawyers, or you can go without lawyers. You don't need to have lawyers to go to a mediator. So those are all cooperative versions of getting divorced. And here at Open Palm Law, we do them all. I am a mediator. I represent one spouse sometimes in a negotiation. Sometimes both spouses get lawyers, and the lawyers negotiate it out with their clients, and that's cooperative divorce. And then there's this thing called collaborative, which is a new thing. It's really it's new. It's 25 years old, 27 years old, but it hasn't started rising, if you will, until only recently. I did my first collaborative case in 2002. And in that case, the lawyers sign an agreement with their clients that they won't go to court. So the clients and the lawyers make a commitment that they will work it out without a judge. And that's a really interesting thing because it puts a little pressure on them to really make the negotiations work out. So they work hard at understanding their real goals and interests in getting the divorce, what they want to get out of the divorce, what they want their life to look like in 5 years. They don't focus on past hurts and angers and fights. they focus on the future. It's a very interesting process. Totally opposite going to court. In court, you focus on all the bad stuff.
Right, right.
In collaboration, you focus on all the good stuff.
Now, the 60% of the people that are getting divorced just at the kitchen table, are those amicable divorces where they're like, yes, and things aren't going right, and they're not really fighting over everything, and then the 40% are the ones who are fighting with one another, or what's going on with that 60%?
I don't think we can paint it with that black and white a brush. I would say that there are people who work things out at the kitchen table who can get pretty angry about things. They may have an argument over who gets to keep the house. But it's interesting because speaking of that one issue, so often people will fight over the house, and then a year later, whoever got the house will come to me and go, you were right. I really shouldn't have made a big fuss about getting the house. I can't afford the house. I don't want the house.
Right.
So we go through all those. But when you're in the middle of an argument or a fight, you focus. It's a human thing to focus on, I want the house, not on, why do you want the house? Well, I need my home office. I want a house in the neighborhood where the kids have friends. I want a house in a good school, in a good school system. You really need to focus on your underlying desires and interests, and that's what collaborative helps people do. But even at kitchen table, people will fight, but they eventually will work it out. So is it amicable? Well, I don't think any divorce is completely amicable. If it were, then it would actually be a marriage, not a divorce.
Right. Now, collaborative, is that just you representing both parties? Do they both have a representative? How does that work?
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because the real definite, there's only one thing required. Well, I suppose there's three things required in a collaborative divorce. You have to have two lawyers, one for each party. The lawyers have to sign a written participation agreement, and the participation agreement has to have that withdrawal clause that if the parties give up on negotiating playing nice, if you will, and decide we're going to court, I'm done with you, then the lawyers get out and they have to get new lawyers, trial lawyers. So that's what's required to make it collaborative. We say collaborative with a big C, as opposed to just being nice to each other and trying to work it out with a little c.
Right. And how often do the collaborative divorces proceed, through to finality, collaboratively, with,
88%.
88, okay.
88%. It's hard to be sure because, statistics are a funny thing. They say that 90% of divorce cases will mediate before they go to trial. But you have to think, where are they getting those statistics? Mediation is now absolutely required in Hillsborough County before you go to trial. In fact, the judges are now requiring it twice. You have to go to mediation early, and then you have to go to mediation just before trial in case you can still work it out. And people do. They will spend a lot of money getting ready for trial, and then they'll realize, hey, I'm running out of money, and they'll settle. They'll settle for a lot of different reasons. They'll settle because they're tired and they're worn out and they're not as bitter anymore. Maybe it's gone on so long they've gotten over their hurts. Although I will say that litigation tends to magnify the hurts rather than decrease them.
Yeah, I could imagine so. Yeah,
So the statistics are hard. We've only been collecting statistics in collaborative cases for a couple of years. I think the stats probably could be higher. I will tell you that of the last 20 cases I've done, 2 failed. So I have a 90% success rate. But those 2 failed because we did not realize that there were mental health issues that were really severe in one of the parties. And if we had brought the mental health person into the process earlier and had her figure that out, we probably wouldn't have taken the case collaboratively, which obviously would impact my statistics. So statistics are hard.
Now, you went to law school to be a lawyer. You're working in divorce. Do you find yourself more acting as a counselor, though? I struggle with emotional issues. I don't know how you even do the job of getting between a married couple. But how do you manage the stress of your job?
2 minutes, Jimmy.
It's funny that you asked that, Jamie, because you put your finger right on it. I started out in commercial litigation, so I did 14 years in practice before I even did my first divorce case. And I did divorce work because I opened my own practice. And 24 years ago, a solo woman starting her own law firm, her friends were going to send her the divorce cases. Nobody wanted to do divorce work, and so that's what I got. And it's been really eye-opening for me. I've practiced law for 37 years, and in family law, more than any other area, you're acting as an advisor, a counselor, a confidant, a close friend, someone they rely on to tell them, what they should be doing, how they should be doing it, opening their eyes. You shouldn't keep the house because you can't afford it. Those types of conversations we have them up every day. One reason that I love the collaborative divorce process is because I'm supposed to be that counselor, and I'm allowed to be that counselor. In litigation, it's kind of a weird thing because I'm the lawyer, I'm the legal person. It's all about what does the law say, not about what does your heart say, what does your brain say. So it's a lot different in the collaborative process. We call it the paradigm shift. It's almost like a different career.
Is it still, an undersupplied market in terms of attorneys that represent divorce clients, or is it, pretty well staffed with attorneys now in divorce cases?
Oh, we've got a high percentage of divorce lawyers in Hillsborough County. I think we've got over 500.
But 20 years
lawyers.
ago, it wasn't the case. It was you kind of a.
That was not. Well, even more pertinent is the fact that the large law firms now have their own divorce departments. So in the old days, God, I can't believe I'm saying this. In the old days, the big law firms, when one of their commercial clients had a divorce in the family, they were referred out to a small firm. There were no big law firms, and there were no big divorce firms, and there were no big law firms that had divorce departments. That's all changed now. There are big divorce firms, and when I say big, a big divorce firm is 14 lawyers.
Gotcha.
But the big firms all have divorce departments, so they're keeping that work in-house.
Currently talking to Joryn Jenkins. She is the founder of Open Palm Law here in Tampa, Florida. To learn more, openpalmlaw.com. Hopefully you never need her services in collaborative divorce, but if you do, you can reach out to her at 813-870-3839, 813-870-3839. Coming back from the break, I'm going to talk with her a little bit about how, if you are facing a divorce, some of the things that you should do maybe ahead of time to better prepare yourself for the litigation or the collaboration, depending on which direction that you go. So stay tuned on That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business.
Hi, welcome to Yeager's. We just want to take a minute and show you what we're all about. At Yeager's, our primary business is hardwood flooring, although we are remodelers for kitchen, bath, and general construction. We operate a fleet of shop-at-home vans that have all the flooring type products, hardwood flooring, laminate flooring, tiles, stone, what have you. So we're able to come out first with products in our vehicles and take a look at the setting, how the colors will work, and then to be able to come up with some options and ideas for you. If that's not good enough, we have a large distribution center that we inventory product and have a nice display area.
Welcome back to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Guest today is Joryn Jenkins, founder of Open Palm Law, and learn more, openpalmlaw.com. So, Joryn, let's talk about somebody who is facing a divorce. First off, how often is it, a surprise for one of the parties? Is it usually somebody shocks the other party and says, I want a divorce, or is it something that they both know is coming? Talk to me just a little bit about that.
Well, I think it's probably what you would guess. I would say half the time both parties know it's coming, and then some percentage, much smaller percentage, is a big shock, and then there's the in between. It's been mentioned occasionally during. I mean, people get mad at each other and they throw out the D word, and then But you can still get to the end of the line and someone gets served with papers and they go, I just didn't think this was ever really going to happen because she was never serious about the D word. That was just in the middle of a fight. So there's all that. But I think half the time it's well known by both, and it's just who's going to file first. There's a big whopping file fee in Hillsborough County. And I think in most counties, I think the majority of it is state money, not county money. It costs over $400 just to file your petition for divorce. And if there's going to be a counter petition, which there has to be, if the other side wants to fight for anything, the counter petition is over $300. So, it's just to file the paperwork. Even if you're representing yourself, you're going to be paying, between the two of you, over $700. That's a lot of money.
Does it matter who files first? Is there any advantage to filing versus waiting on your other party to file?
It's all totally, I was going to say it's all totally psychological, but that's actually not absolutely true. When you go to trial, the petitioner puts his case on first. The respondent gets to obviously respond. And then generally speaking, the petitioner in theory gets to put on their reply, their counter. So in theory, the petitioner gets more time in front of the judge. It doesn't really work out that way because the judges are really fair about 50-50 time, and they try not to prejudge. They try not to let the petitioner convince them of anything until they've heard the respondent's case. But psychologically, there's that issue of, if I filed first and I got to put my stuff on at trial first, then, I'm going to have a better shot at convincing the judge. Really, there's no advantage one way or the other. But I will tell you that when we file collaboratively, we don't file in collaboration until we've got an agreement already. And when we file, we specifically make it co-petitioners. We're both petitioning for a divorce. We're in agreement. This is what we want. And that way, should your kid ever go down to the courthouse and want to see who sued who in your divorce, you're both petitioners. No 16, 17-year-old who just got her driver's license and wants to check out what her parents' divorce really looked like is going to find out that mommy sued daddy.
Right. Is there any advice that you give people that are considering divorce as far as positioning things assets-wise? I guess it's probably illegal to start moving stuff around and hiding stuff, but is there any general advice that you can give people to get things in order, or is there just really no way to get things in order?
You're so smart. So once you file a petition in the courthouse, the judge enters an automatic order saying, don't move anything. Mm-hmm. Don't change anything. Don't cancel your wife's health insurance. Don't cancel your husband's car insurance, Mm-hmm. But there actually is there's no prohibition on pre-divorce planning, if you will. And I often talk to clients about making arrangements ahead of time, like if you have a big bank account of liquid money and let's say you've been saving for a while and it's got $20,000 in it, take half of that and put that in a separate account. Mm-hmm. Half of it, everything that you own in your marriage, within the marriage, belongs 100% to you. It also belongs 100% to your spouse. That's kind of hard to wrap your head around. So in order to avoid allowing one of the spouses to screw the other spouse by taking all the money, I tell my clients, I don't know how amicable this is going to be. Take half the money, put it in a separate account. Then you're sending a signal, I'm trying to be fair, I don't want this to get all bent out. You know, I don't want you to get all bent out of shape. I want it to be fair and reasonable. I want everyone to keep their cool. But I'm taking half the money just to make sure that you don't do anything mean to me. I always say, go around your house and take photos of things that you care about, especially things that have sentimental value. I say make copies of any important documents. So make a copy of the deed to your home. But you know, it's a very negative point of view. We shouldn't have to be this way, but we have to be because people do mean things to each other in divorce.
Right.
So I give my clients advice that will protect them, but you know, I'm also very clear about don't take those documents and hide them from your spouse. Just make copies. If you hide them from your spouse, then your spouse will do something mean back to you, and that just doesn't make good sense.
So it's okay to move, you know, the money around, move things around ahead of the filing, but once the filing's in place, you can't move stuff around. You can't do those things.
That's correct. People violate that order all the time, but my clients don't.
What about the adage of what was mine before the marriage is mine? So if right now I own a house, I get married tomorrow, 2 years later I want to get divorced. Does she have any claim on my house? How does that work?
Yes. Yeah. Well, see, now you're getting technical on me. So you owned the house. When you were making payments, let's make it easy. You own the house and it's all paid for.
Okay.
You own it before the marriage, you get married, now you're getting divorced, the house is yours. Unless she helped renovate it somehow. Or unless you renovated and put a lot of more money into it during the marriage. Anything that you do to increase the value during the marriage is marital.
Mm-hmm.
If it lost money during the marriage, then she probably doesn't have a claim to it.
Right.
Because it lost money. But even if you bought it and you had a mortgage and all you did was make mortgage payments, you were making those mortgage payments with money. If you were making those mortgage payments with money you earned during the marriage, because the money you earned during your marriage is marital, that portion of the home is marital.
Okay. I just hear that thrown around a lot of time in just general bar talk. Like, well, I owned it before I got involved with her. You know, that's mine. She can't have it. So, but I don't really think that's how it works. But I'm not an attorney, so I'm glad I get
It's not as clear cut as one might think. I can tell you that I always tell my clients, if you get an inheritance, put it in a separate account. Even if you're happily married, put it in a separate account. If you want to spend it on your spouse, go right ahead. But always keep your inheritance separate because it's extramarital and you want to keep it extramarital just in case.
Now, do you offer services to advise people on how to keep their assets, you know, protected, you know, even while their things are good?
Sure. Absolutely. We have, you know, we're full service divorce, if you will. So we go to trial, we go to mediation, we mediate, we cooperate, we do all of that. We give premarital counseling, we do prenups, we do prenuptial agreements. We can do prenuptial agreements collaboratively or not collaboratively. An interesting thing is we not only have to give the pre-marriage advice, but we also give post-marriage advice. I mean, I can't let a client leave here who's gotten divorced without telling them, okay, now go check all of your bank accounts and make sure that you change who it's payable to on death. Your POD is probably your spouse, and if you leave it that way, it's going to be your spouse, even though you've been divorced for 20 years. So there's lots of that kind of planning that goes on all the time when you get divorced. It's a big change. Everybody knows that. It's a big, big change, and that's why actually consulting with a lawyer, even if you're doing a kitchen table, getting advice from a lawyer is not a bad idea.
We've got a couple minutes left. Joryn, you've written a number of books. Tell us about some of your books as they relate to your divorce practice.
Oh, I'd love to do that. That's a funny thing because I've written my most recent book, actually, I co-authored with a law firm administrator. It's called From Lawyer to Law Firm, and it's about how to run a small firm, how to run a successful, lucrative, small law firm. Doesn't matter what, you know, whether it's divorce work, estate work, doesn't matter. But the 5 before that were all on collaborative divorce. The most recent of those was how to market your collaborative divorce practice. And then most recently, I've written one just how to market your law practice, period, from rookie to rainmaker. So I've got all those. I've got 7 books. It's hard to believe. And
you're an author more than an attorney now.
Yeah, well, and the last 2 were bestsellers.
Congratulations. Well, you're definitely an expert in your field. That's why I wanted to close on that. So for people that have been listening to Joryn over this last half an hour and are needing some assistance in divorce, definitely reach out to her at openpalmlaw.com. So Joryn, thank you so much for being with me on the program today. A lot of great information.
Thank you, Jamie.
And again, you can reach out to her at 813-870-3839. 813-870-3839. openpalmlaw.com. You've been listening to That Business Show 2.0. I'm your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business.